Okay, it's Transformation with Tony Saldana. This time on video. Tony, thanks so much for doing it.
Oh, hey, always a pleasure, Seth.
So we wanted to talk about this time the role of the CIO in the IT organization in transformation. And
That's right.
so one would think, right? A global enterprise practitioner, well, there's obviously a defined role and everybody knows what everyone's going to do. And this is kind of a cross-industry thing no matter what. And we know exactly what happens. Or we have no idea somehow.
Or both of those are true.
Well, let's talk about how we could possibly have no idea if we were all together here. You know, if we're talking EVP, SVP, we were all together through ERP.
Yes,
Like we've been
yes.
doing this for 20, 30 years already.
That's right. That's right. And that's exactly the issue. We've been all doing this for way too long, and we've been doing it a certain way. But that is a very topical question, Seth, as you can imagine, because, um, you know, leaders, whether they are CEOs or boards, have a little bit of this dilemma, right? What is the role of their CIO in digital transformation? Are they basically your best ally? Are they the leader of your digital transformation? Should they be the chief digital officer? Or are they simply a bottleneck and you have to find a way to go around them? And I think the context of that is exactly what you mentioned. I mean, everybody, the CIO, the CEO, everybody is doing their job for a very long time in the context of what they understand their job to be. So the CIOs understand their job to be to drive scale and to standardize and to protect the company against people going crazy with technology. And so that's what they do, and that's what they do extremely well, except for one small detail, which is in the fourth industrial revolution, scale is not sufficient. What they have to do is transform, and that's a totally different game.
All right. So let me place you in the CEO chair, the chairman and CEO chair.
There you go. Even better.
You'll take it. Okay, fantastic. So you've got both those roles, right? So you're in the boardroom and you're also day to day, so to speak. And you're starting a global corporate enterprise from scratch. However, somehow it is already a multi-billion-dollar organization, right? And so you can just place a CIO who's going to hit the ground running. There's no, no issues whatsoever because we're making this up from plain cloth. So that CIO, what kind of an executive do we want there? What kind of a skill set do we want there?
We want somebody that's basically got the skill sets of opposable thumbs. So they have the ability to essentially run the operations and to govern, but in a very different way than the world has historically seen governance. So not as a police person, as a cop that's going to stop you from doing stuff, but as a person who's extremely clear about what are the hard points of standards, information security, some thin guidelines on architecture, and they're going to do a fantastic job of that, right? So that's one thumb. On the other hand, they're going to basically see their job as enabling each and every function and each and every one in the organization to digitally transform their own work. They're not going to be looking for a job of, tell me what your requirements are and I will transform you. But let me work with you. Let me enable you to transform yourself.
So a little bit more of a CEO mentality or mindset in the CIO role.
Exactly. Absolutely. Very business focused, very outcome focused, fully cognizant of the fact that they cannot transform everybody in the company. Everybody in the company has to transform themselves using, obviously, the skills and technologies that I provide.
All right, so that's the CIO. Okay, fine, and we're giving that role a little bit more politics, right?
Yes.
Then the IT organization, because that's the other piece that we brought up at the beginning. What's the role of the CIO? What's the role of the IT organization? So now, we're going to raise tickets and answer tickets, and are we going to do all that stuff? Do we have to continue doing that? And X, what is it?
So I think it is again to transform the IT skill sets, to add in two things. One is much more business savvy on why are we doing what we're doing, and then to add in the creative gene into professionals that have been taught from an engineering mindset. And let me elaborate on both of those. Right. So the first one, which is business acumen. Um, at the end of the day, I think every function in the company, including IT, has to be clear on two things. One is the piece of work that I'm currently working on a commodity piece of work, or is it a strategic advantage to the company? So, for example, if fixing tickets is very important to your business model, if you happen to be in that business, that's absolutely perfect. And what you have to do is you have to bring in the creativity and the architecture and all of the power in the world to say, I will transform the industry of ticket management, right? 99% of the companies aren't in the business of ticket management. And so that's really where you have to decide whether you want your own IT people to do that, or you're just going to buy the best of breed, whatever you can get at the best cost, right? So that is a business strategy. I think what happens in most IT organizations is that, we've been trained, and I've been trained as an execution person, to go in there, to take a problem and to use my technology to fix it. And by God, I'm going to do the best job of fixing it. Not to kind of step back and say, why am I doing this? And, should I move my role into a higher value added work, right? And so I think that's what I mean by, bring in a little more business savvy in there. Yeah? The second thing that I talked about is the creativity gene. Most business processes, so if the IT function is going to be at the service of having every other function in the company, finance, manufacturing, advertising, transform themselves, what they're going to have to do is ask a different set of questions. So instead of asking the questions, hey, tell me how you want this automated and I will automate you, they have to ask a different question, which is, what is the outcome that you want out of this? Let's say the outcome that you want is, zero out of stock in your supply chain. Then instead of laying out the steps, you might actually say, let's get into a room and let's use some design thinking, in a world where there is no out of stock, right? And how should the process work? And that's a different skill set than saying, give me your requirements. I'm going to do agile, I'm going to do scrum, and I will automate whatever you want me to automate.
So almost a little bit more of an entrepreneurial nature within
Exactly.
the IT organization.
Yes, exactly.
A little bit more CEO on top, a little bit more entrepreneurship, kind of underneath. And then that's how we can move forward and not be, maybe stuck where we might be.
Yes, absolutely. And by the way, that's just natural evolution, I think, of the IT organizations. And I'm very pleased to say I know a few leaders in the industry, IT leaders, that exactly work based on that particular dictum, which is, they see themselves and their roles as transforming from being the technologist in the company to basically being the digital capabilities function of the entire company. So just like human resources doesn't try and manage every person in the company, they enable every person in the company to essentially be successful. These, three or four people that I know, they don't see their job as essentially, trying to control every piece of technology in the company, but being the provider of capabilities that allows 100% of the organization in the company to become digital resources.
So we are positing the theory here, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the CIO should change that job title essentially to head of digital transformation. That is, if we get someone with the right skill set that we're talking about here, that's the right person to lead this charge. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think you've hit the nail on the head. Part of this is to make sure that you've got the right person. Many of us, myself included, were trained, to do something else. And unless we're willing to go back and question that for this current time, that worked in a different era. If we're not able to change that for today, then, we may not be the right people.
We got to evolve. We got to transform. It's in the title.
There you
Transform.
go.
Tony Saldana, always appreciate it. These conversations are wonderful, and I love the fact that they are now on video. So thank you for your time here, and I can't wait to do the next one, in just a few weeks.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, always a pleasure, Seth. Thank you.